I've got a 3-brake 4-inch here to join together, and each of the brakes has already been spiked, pasted with 4 turns of 70-pound paper. And I made a video a while ago of putting these 3 separate shells in the rocket press and then compressing them and putting paper in the gap and then some tape over the top. But there's another way to do it if you haven't got a shell press. You can get yourself a couple of these clamps. This one's just big enough for this shell, which is, I guess, about 12-14 inches long. And all I do is put one either side, clamp it up to get the gap as small as possible, and then ordinarily I'd use some pasted paper, 30-pound paper, but I've only got a little bit to do, so I'm just using some water and Elmer's glue to soak this up. And all you do, there's not much of a gap there. I just want to get rid of the dip in the gap, so when I come and spike the string over the top, it's nice and flat. And just work the paper into the gap, smooth it down. Turn her over. There's less of a gap in places than others. You can get a little hammer and just make it nice and flush. Now, if I had more than one to do, I'd probably use pasted paper, but since it's only this one, I'm just going to use a piece of gum tape over it. Now, you could let that dry, but I'm not going to. I'm going to take it, spike it immediately. When I take the clamp off now, it'll decompress a little bit, but not a lot. The spiking will pull it nice and tight again afterwards anyway. Depending on what I'm joining, I'll use 2 strands of pasted 1mm hemp twine. But today, since I've got the horse loaded up with something already, I'll just use what's on there. This is 1.5mm tarred twine. I'll just put a clove hitch around the spolet. And then put the verticals on it. As I said, each of these brakes is already spiked, fully spiked and fully pasted. So all I'm doing is putting enough twine on here just to hold the brakes together when they exit the gun. And as the first brake goes off, the second and third brake will stay together. I don't bother off centre spiking it, because you've only got 8 strands. Just go straight across the centre, up the other side. Put it nice and tight as you do it, and then dig the twine in on the edge. And when you get to the top, turn it 90 degrees around the spolet, so you've got the halfway point there. Again, dig it into the edge, bring it down again, dig it in again, it's not quite central, straight across the middle, the last time I went to the left of the spillet, this time I'm going to go around the right of it. Choose the centre point here between your last two. Straight across the centre again. I went to the right last time, so now I go around the left. This will equally tension the string against your spillet, so you're not pulling it in one direction all the time, it's equaling the pull out. And that's 8. That's more than sufficient to hold this together. Bring it at the top. And just pull it up against one of the verticals, and then when you've got it wedged against there, wind it down to the bottom. You can wind it down in a turn and a half, 2 turns, and now give it a couple of turns, just about a 1/4 inch from the bottom edge of it. And when you've got 2 turns on, spiral it up quite rapidly. You can have the gaps like about 1 inch, 1.5 inches, until you get to a point you can feel where it is, where the gap is there. You want to start at about 3/8 of an inch this side of the gap onto this shell here, and now wind it up. And lay the string side by side so they're close together. And the nice thing about tarred twine is you don't have to keep the tension on all the time. If I let go now, it's stuck together, it's not going to come undone. So if you're spiking a really big shell and your arms get tired, you can just rest it on your lap or dump it on the spiking table until your arms have got some strength back in them again. I'm just over the gap now, so I'm filling in the space between the second and third break, and the reason I put that band of pasted paper in the gap is that if you don't, when you get to this point, the string will disappear down the hole and you end up with having to do 2 or 3 turns just to fill the gap up, whereas if it's nice and level to start with, you don't need to do that. It just looks a lot neater as well. Now I'm just beginning, now I've filled the gap, I'm just beginning on to wind it up onto the second break, and I want to cover about 3/8 of an inch of the second break. So I'm now winding it onto the second break now. You could, if you like, use 2 strands of twine. Go a little bit quicker if you're doing it like that. Okay, I've now got a band either side of the gap itself of about 3/8 of an inch. So now I just wind it up quickly again to a point 3/8 of an inch on the second break, which is about there. I was using pasted twine to do this. When I've finished putting these bands on and put the half hitch on the top, I would smear some Elmer's glue around the twine just to stop it unravelling when each break goes off. But with the tar twine, you needn't do that. It'll hold together itself. Okay, I'm just on the centre now of the first and second break, so I want to put my 3/8 of an inch up onto the first break. It's as well as if you're going to use this method, that before you go and put this band of spiking on the outside, that you've just put it in the gun to make sure it's going to fit, because this is a 1.5mm twine. I'm adding 3mm to the width of the shell, and I've got another 2 turns of £30 paper to go over the top of this for the lift and leader. So you want to check before you do it, before you decide what kind of string you're going to use, that you're not going to end up with a really tight fit in the gun. Okay, I've got a 3/8 on one side of the first break, 3/8 on the second, the gaps filled, same on this one. Now just bring it up again, quickly to the top. Just put one turn round the top first, about a 1/4 inch down from the edge of it. Now just put a half hitch in it. And just cinch it. Cinch it nice and tight and just chop it off. Okay, it's done. So all that needs now is the lift to go in the bag at the bottom, depending on how you're going to finish it, lift and leader it. And that's done. When the first break goes off now, it'll take about half of this twine with it where the end disc is, and it'll leave the other band of twine there on the second break, so that it's not all going to unravel. Plus you've got the pasted 2 turns of pasted paper over the top of this anyway, which is going to hold it together. The second break goes off. At that point it doesn't matter if it unravels, because the fuse on the third break is lit as well. And this will work for 3, 4, 5 breaks, 6 breaks, whatever. If you're going to do a particularly long and heavy shell, then I would put more than 8 verticals on it. And on a 6 or 8 inch, you maybe want to put the spacing here a little bit wider and put about a 1/2 inch overlapping onto each break.